Since you have no other option, you have a business that in just 4 years went from having a market value of $100 billion to $22 trillion. You speculatively wager on anything that kind of asterisk quote unquote asterisk rhymes with Nvidia at the moment. In your opinion, is he a more visionary than Elon Musk? Indeed, even while Nvidia's revenues continue to compound, the spread trade will eventually indicate that the company loses market share. Nvidia is probably about to launch a full-scale offensive on Microsoft, Amazon, and GCP. Elon Musk maintains his assertion that he can transform Tesla into a leader in artificial intelligence. Greetings from Asterisk Morning Trade Live Asterisk once again. Nvidia and Tesla are two mega-cap companies that need to be thoroughly examined. Let's welcome Spear Invest's founder and CIO, Ivana Delpa. Ivana, I really appreciate you being here at my desk. I'm glad to have you. Caroline, thank you for having me. Okay, so let's discuss Nvidia and chip makers in general, because there have been rumors that the Biden administration may tighten export regulations to China. At the moment, it doesn't appear to be significantly affecting any of the chip makers. Why do you suppose that is? Caroline, the news is a little better than we had anticipated because we had anticipated a few more constraints. You're not seeing a significant impact because of this. Significant restrictions had already been placed on us, particularly on the top-tier CPUs used by companies like Nvidia. Thus, the greatest influence was actually felt at that time. The new constraints are, well, better than people had anticipated, but not necessarily better. All right, so before we talk about Nvidia, I would like to discuss another headline from this morning, which is, of course, the news that Pat Gelsinger is no longer the CEO of Intel. As a result of the news, Intel's stock is currently up more than 3%. What do you think about this change? It's a bit of a surprise, really. We weren't too surprised, Caroline, as Intel had been struggling and their foundry business in particular was in a very bad place. Therefore, we anticipated that something would change. The market anticipates that former Qualcomm CEO Steve Mollenkopf would be a viable contender in this case. I believe it was necessary, but we'll see what happens. To have a more revolutionary effect here, a new CEO was required. Given that Intel's stock has dropped more than 50% so far this year, I suppose I shouldn't say it's a major surprise. However, merely in terms of the announcement, I find the timing to be somewhat intriguing. Now, since Nvidia has clearly been the crowd favorite this year, let's talk about it. It appears to be far ahead of all other chip makers, particularly in the area of artificial intelligence. So, as we consider next year, is it in a position to continue to dominate? Well, Caroline, Blackwell is going to have a huge impact on Nvidia as we go to the upcoming year. What I would emphasize, though, is that the Blackwell chip's power requirements necessitate the construction of entirely new data centers, as contrast to Hopper, which was integrating into already existing data center infrastructure. As a result, Nvidia will likely profit somewhat more slowly and more erratically than Hopper did. However, as we move into the upcoming year, we'll also see the wider value chain, such as power generation and networking, benefit greatly. Will that then be sufficient to drive the stock higher? Since it's up more than 180% so far this year, I believe you can't undervalue it. Although the market has reached new heights, Nvidia is still 8% below those heights. The stock hasn't shown the vigor that we have seen in some other parts of the market, but it is still seeing a fairly nice run-up. Will we see that again, in your opinion? Without a doubt, the stock will rise during the following leg of trading, as soon as the Blackwell data are released in earnings. On an EV/EBITDA ratio, it is currently trading in the mid-20s for the next year. We consider that to be a solid starting point for the stock. Earnings must therefore be the main surprise, and we certainly anticipate a sizable one. We anticipate that Blackwell alone will generate over $200 billion in income. Therefore, would you purchase any Nvidia weakness? Of course. We're still keeping it because it's one of our best holdings. We believe that several of our other holdings have some additional potential for growth. On our website, we list all of our holdings in the short term. However, we believe you'll get a significant advantage when Blackwell emerges. Therefore, I believe that this downturn is a fantastic place to start if you're a patient investor. All right, So before we actually trade Nvidia, I would like to ask you a brief question about some of the rivals. In all honesty, we haven't seen anyone challenge Nvidia. We sort of focus on AMD, but from the standpoint of stocks, it hasn't been nearly as successful. Do you think AMD will gain more distance, or do you think others will start to catch up? It's interesting to note, Caroline, that we had less competition this year than we had anticipated. We anticipate that the next round of competition will be from the hyperscalers who are creating their own chips. Marvell is in a great position to gain from this. To get these chips onto the market, they are collaborating with hyperscalers like Microsoft and Amazon. Since they currently have a customer base built, we see that area gaining traction in the upcoming year. All right, Ivana, remain with me while I go trade Nvidia with Tom White. You heard Ivana, Tom. She remains optimistic about the name. She would exploit any vulnerability. Tell us then how you would trade this name. This is how you have to look at it. While the stock is expensive, the options market may offer you a little better chance to offset some of the costs of taking a bullish position. I therefore gave myself a little time to see if this Santa Claus rally continues, if all equities continue to rise, or if Nvidia, which lost 2.6% last week, recovers by looking ahead to the December 27th weekly cycle, which has 25 days till expiration. This approach capitalizes on it, and I plan to purchase a somewhat in-the-money 138 strike call. I want to purchase one of the 147 strike calls after selling two of the 145 strike calls. Essentially, you are purchasing a $7 wide bullish call vertical, and somewhat compensating for it by selling a $2 wide call vertical above it using the same common strike that you used to sell two options at or close to 145. You want the stock to go there. However, your break-even to the upside is $140.30, which is less than 1% over the current share price, provided you pay a debit of roughly $2.30 for that. Therefore, you only need to grind higher rather than make a huge move to the upside. Even though you created an imbalanced or broken wing called butterfly, anything above 140 will be profitable on this kind of position. Even if you want it to go to 145, your profit is still more than doubled on this kind of transaction, even though it decreases slightly over the 145 strike. If you believe that Nvidia's stock will rise to the end of the year, this is a very short-term position if it even rises to 147, 150, or anything above those levels. All right, I'll be right back here, Tom. I'll return my attention to Ivana. We are going to discuss Tesla. With a 38% rise in November, Tesla enjoyed a very remarkable month. Today, the momentum is still very strong. At the moment, Tesla's stock is up 3%. Some analyst calls were bullish. Do you believe Elon Musk and Tesla can maintain this momentum, by the way? We believe Tesla is just getting started, Caroline. The market does not fully recognize two aspects of the Tesla tale. On the FSD side is one. We believe that FSD was experiencing some bottlenecks in 2021 and 2022, but with the recent investment in Nvidia technology, FSD is essentially improving at a much faster rate with each subsequent iteration. Thus, scaling laws hold true, which is crucial for autonomy. Second, we believe that the Trump administration will make it much simpler from a regulatory perspective to introduce these autonomous vehicles to the market. That's a significant change, isn't it? Your product's value is significantly diminished if you are unable to promote it. In contrast, we believe they will be able to accomplish it. These are the two actions I would want to draw attention to, since I believe they will propel the stock higher going forward. Rapidly, autonomy is embraced. Elon Musk has